You know what's fascinating? We spend so much time setting goals, making plans, visualizing our dream life, and then we do the strangest thing. We sabotage ourselves. Not obviously, not dramatically, but quietly, subtly. We procrastinate on that project we said was important. We pick fights right before something good is about to happen. We abandon ship right when we're about to reach the shore. And here's the thing. Most of us don't even realize we're doing it. We blame external circumstances. We say we're just not disciplined enough, or the timing wasn't right, or we got unlucky. But if you've noticed a pattern in your life, if you keep finding yourself right back at square one after making progress, there's something deeper going on, something you might not be ready to look at yet. Because self-sabotage, it's not laziness, it's not weakness, it's protection. Let me explain. Think about the last time you were really close to achieving something you wanted. Maybe it was a promotion. Maybe it was finally losing that weight. Maybe it was getting serious with someone who actually treated you well. Can you remember what happened right before you derailed? Can you feel what was going on inside you? Most people report feeling anxious, uncomfortable, like something bad was about to happen, even though logically something good was happening. That feeling, that's your nervous system sounding the alarm. Because here's what most people don't understand about self-sabotage. It's not trying to hurt you. It's trying to save you. Your subconscious mind has been paying attention your whole life. It's been taking notes. It remembers every time you got excited about something and then got disappointed. It remembers every time you succeeded at something and people got weird about it, or jealous, or you felt pressure you couldn't handle. It remembers every time love felt good and then turned painful. And based on all that data, it's developed some beliefs about what's safe and what's dangerous. And sometimes success feels dangerous. I know that sounds backwards. We're supposed to want success, right? We're supposed to chase it, hunger for it, do whatever it takes. But your subconscious doesn't care about what you're supposed to want. It cares about keeping you alive and keeping you safe. And if somewhere along the way, it learned that success comes with consequences you can't handle, it's going to protect you from success. Let me give you an example. I knew someone who grew up in a family where her older sister was the golden child. The sister got straight A's, was popular, talented, beautiful, the whole package. And my friend, she was smart too, maybe even smarter, but she learned early on that outshining her sister created tension. Her parents would get uncomfortable, her sister would get cold. The family dynamic would shift in ways that made everyone uneasy. So what did she learn? She learned that it's safer to stay small. Safer to not try too hard. Safer to be good, but not too good. And that lesson stuck with her into adulthood. Every time she got close to a big achievement, something inside her would panic. She'd start missing deadlines. She'd get sick at crucial moments. She'd sabotage presentations or interviews without even meaning to. It wasn't until she did some serious self-reflection that she realized what was happening. Her subconscious still believed that success would cost her love, belonging, and safety, so it kept pulling the emergency brake right before she could reach the finish line. That's the thing about self-sabotage. It's a protection mechanism that's outlived its usefulness. It made sense at some point in your life. It genuinely kept you safe from something, whether that was rejection, judgment, responsibility, disappointment, or loss. But now it's just keeping you stuck. And the fears that drive self-sabotage, they're deeper than you think. One of the biggest fears hiding underneath self-sabotage is the fear of actually being seen. Really seen. Because here's the truth. When you're playing small, when you're underachieving, when you're hiding behind excuses and unfulfilled potential, people can't really judge you. They can't say you failed because you never really tried. They can't criticize your work because you never finished it. They can't reject the real you because you never showed them the real you. But when you succeed, when you put yourself out there and actually achieve something, you become visible. And visibility is terrifying when you've built your whole identity around being underestimated or overlooked. I see this all the time with creative people. They have incredible ideas, genuine talent, something real to offer the world. But they never finish anything. They start projects and abandon them. They tell themselves they're perfectionists, that they're waiting for the right time, that they need to learn just one more thing before they're ready. But what they're really doing is protecting themselves from the vulnerability of being judged. Because an unfinished project can't be criticized, an unrealized dream can't fail, and a hidden talent can't be rejected. There's another fear that drives self-sabotage, and this one's even more uncomfortable to admit: the fear of losing yourself, of becoming someone you don't recognize, of success changing you in ways you can't control. Think about it. We all have stories we tell ourselves about who we are. Maybe you've always been the underdog, the struggler, the one who has it harder than everyone else. Maybe that's been your identity for so long that you don't know who you'd be without it. And deep down, there's a part of you that's afraid to find out. Or maybe you've seen what success does to people. You've watched people get money and become selfish. You've seen people get power and become cruel. You've known people who achieved their dreams and then lost the relationships that mattered most. And somewhere in your subconscious you made a decision: I won't let that happen to me. I'll stay safe by staying exactly where I am. This fear shows up in really subtle ways. You might find yourself feeling guilty when good things happen. You might downplay your achievements, almost apologizing for them. You might surround yourself with people who keep you small because deep down, you're afraid that growing will mean leaving them behind. And maybe it will. Maybe some relationships in your life are built on you staying stuck, and your growth threatens the entire dynamic. But here's what you need to understand. You are not betraying anyone by becoming who you're meant to be. You're not abandoning your roots by reaching for something better. You're not being selfish by wanting more for yourself. And you're definitely not guaranteed to become someone terrible just because you succeed. The fear of losing yourself is really just a fear of the unknown. It's your mind trying to protect you from uncertainty by keeping you in familiar territory, even if that territory is painful. Because at least pain you know feels safer than joy you don't. Then there's the fear of responsibility. And this one's huge. Success comes with expectations. It comes with pressure. It comes with people depending on you, watching you, waiting to see what you'll do next. And if you've spent your whole life feeling overwhelmed by responsibility, if you've been the one carrying everyone else's burdens, if you've never quite felt capable enough or strong enough, then success sounds like a nightmare. Because what happens when you finally get that promotion? You have to perform at a higher level. What happens when you finally start that business? You have to show up every single day. What happens when you finally commit to that relationship? You have to be present, available, emotionally mature. And maybe, just maybe, you're not sure you can do it. You're not sure you can handle the weight of your own success. So you sabotage it before you have to find out. I want you to sit with that for a second. How many opportunities have you walked away from? Not because you didn't want them, but because you were afraid you couldn't handle them. How many times have you told yourself you're not ready, when what you really meant was, "I'm scared I'll fail if I try"? Self-sabotage whispers, better to quit now than to be exposed as a fraud later. Better to stay small than to risk disappointing people. Better to never know what you're capable of than to discover you're not as capable as you hoped. And then there's the fear that might be the deepest of all the fear, that even if you succeed, even if you get everything you want, you still won't be happy. That all this striving, all this work, all this pain and sacrifice will lead you to a destination that feels just as empty as where you started. This is the fear that makes people sabotage themselves right at the finish line. Because as long as you're chasing the goal, you can believe that achieving it will fix everything. You can tell yourself, "Once I get that job, I'll finally feel worthy. Once I lose that weight, I'll finally feel confident. Once I find that relationship, I'll finally feel complete." But what happens when you get there and you still feel inadequate? What happens when the external achievement doesn't heal the internal wound? That's terrifying to consider. So instead of finding out, you sabotage. You stay in the chase, because the chase lets you keep the fantasy alive. Here's the hard truth: success won't fix you. It won't make you whole. It won't erase your insecurities or silence your inner critic or automatically make you feel like you're enough. Those are internal jobs that require internal work. And somewhere inside, you know that. Your self-sabotage might actually be protecting you from the disappointment of discovering that the thing you've been chasing wasn't the answer after all. So what do we do with all this? How do we stop sabotaging ourselves when the sabotage is coming from such a deep, protective place? First, we have to get honest. Brutally honest. You have to look at the patterns in your life and stop making excuses for them. Stop blaming bad luck or circumstances or other people. If you keep finding yourself in the same situation over and over, you're not cursed. You're not unlucky. You're stuck in a pattern, and you're the one who has to break it. Start by asking yourself some uncomfortable questions. What am I afraid will happen if I actually succeed? What am I protecting myself from? What story am I telling myself about who I am and what I'm capable of? And here's the big one. What am I getting out of staying stuck? Because here's the thing nobody wants to admit. There are benefits to self-sabotage. There are payoffs. You get to avoid responsibility. You get to avoid vulnerability. You get to avoid the discomfort of change. You get to stay in your comfort zone, even if that zone is uncomfortable. You get sympathy, maybe, or lower expectations, or the safety of being underestimated. Until you're willing to acknowledge what you're getting out of staying small, you can't truly commit to getting bigger. Next, you have to separate your worth from your achievements. This is crucial. As long as you believe that your value as a person is tied to your success, you're going to sabotage yourself, because success becomes an identity threat. If you fail, you're not just someone who failed at something. You're a failure, period. And that's too scary to risk. But if you can understand that your worth is inherent, that it doesn't increase with success or decrease with failure, then suddenly achievement becomes less threatening. It's just something you're trying, just an experiment, just a path you're exploring. And if it doesn't work out, you're still you, still whole, still worthy. You also have to practice sitting with discomfort. Because here's what's going to happen when you stop sabotaging yourself. You're going to feel uncomfortable. Success is going to bring up all those old fears and anxieties. Visibility is going to make you want to hide. Responsibility is going to make you want to run. And your automatic response is going to be to sabotage, to pull back. to retreat to safety. But this time, you're going to stay. You're going to let yourself feel uncomfortable without acting on it. You're going to practice tolerating the anxiety of growth instead of immediately doing something to relieve it. Think of it like building muscle. At first, it's going to burn. It's going to hurt. Your mind is going to tell you to stop. But if you keep going, if you keep showing up even when it's uncomfortable, you get stronger. The discomfort becomes more tolerable, and eventually, what once felt impossible starts to feel normal. You'll also need to examine your relationships, because sometimes the people in our lives have an investment in us staying the same. Not because they're bad people, but because our growth threatens the dynamic. It challenges them, it makes them uncomfortable, and they might, consciously or unconsciously, try to pull you back down to where you were. Pay attention to who celebrates your wins and who minimizes them. Pay attention to who encourages your growth and who seems threatened by it. Pay attention to who stays around when you're struggling and who disappears when you start succeeding. Those are important data points. And here's the really hard part. You might have to create some distance from people you love. Not forever, maybe, but for a season. You might need to protect your growth from people who are invested in your stagnation, and that's okay. That's not selfish. That's survival. Let me tell you something that changed my perspective on all of this. Self-sabotage isn't your enemy. It's a messenger. It's trying to tell you something important about what you believe and what you fear. And instead of fighting it or feeling ashamed of it, you can get curious about it. The next time you notice yourself sabotaging, instead of beating yourself up, try asking, what am I afraid of right now? What am I trying to protect myself from? What old story is getting triggered? Sometimes the answer will surprise you. Sometimes you'll realize you're not actually afraid of failure. You're afraid of what your father will say if you succeed where he didn't. You're not actually afraid of commitment. You're afraid of losing your independence like your mother did. You're not actually afraid of being seen. You're afraid of being seen and still being rejected, which would confirm your deepest fear that you're not enough. Once you know what the fear is, you can talk to it. You can acknowledge it. You can thank it for trying to protect you, and then gently explain that you don't need that protection anymore. That you're an adult now. That you can handle what's coming. That it's okay to be scared and still move forward. This is the work. This is the real work underneath all the goal setting and productivity hacks and motivational speeches. This is about healing the part of you that learned success wasn't safe. This is about updating the outdated programming that's running in the background of your life. This is about choosing growth over comfort, even when every fiber of your being is screaming at you to retreat. And I won't lie to you, it's hard. It's really hard. There are going to be moments when you want to give up, when sabotaging feels so much easier than staying in the discomfort of growth. There are going to be times when you slip back into old patterns, when you catch yourself making excuses or avoiding opportunities or picking fights right before something good is about to happen. But that's okay. That's part of the process. You're not trying to be perfect. You're just trying to be a little more aware, a little more honest, a little braver than you were yesterday. Here's what I want you to understand. You are capable of more than you think you are. Your self-sabotage has convinced you that you're protecting yourself from disaster. But what you're really protecting yourself from is possibility. You're protecting yourself from finding out how strong you actually are, how resilient, how capable of handling whatever life throws at you. The fears are real. I'm not dismissing them, but they're also not the whole truth. Yes, success might change you, but it might change you in beautiful ways. Yes, people might judge you, but the people who matter will celebrate you. Yes, you might fail, but you'll survive it, learn from it, and try again. And yes, achieving your goals might not fix everything, but it will teach you something invaluable, that you're capable of doing hard things, that you can commit to something and see it through, that you're not as fragile as your fears have told you you are. The path forward isn't about eliminating fear. It's about choosing courage in the presence of fear. It's about acknowledging that yes, you're scared, and yes, you're doing it anyway. It's about taking one small step, and then another, even when your entire nervous system is telling you to run the other way. Start small if you need to. Don't try to overhaul your entire life overnight. Just pick one area where you know you've been sabotaging yourself. Just one. And commit to showing up differently in that area. Commit to noticing when the urge to sabotage arises, and instead of acting on it immediately, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself what you're really afraid of, and then make a different choice. Maybe that means sending the email you've been avoiding. Maybe it means having the difficult conversation. Maybe it means finishing the project instead of abandoning it at 90%. Maybe it means saying yes to the opportunity even though it terrifies you. Whatever it is, do it. And then notice what happens. Notice that you didn't die. Notice that the fear was worse in anticipation than in reality. Notice that you're still here, still breathing, still okay. And let that be evidence for a new story. One where you're someone who doesn't sabotage themselves. Someone who moves through fear instead of running from it. Because here's the thing about breaking patterns. Every time you make a different choice, you weaken the old pattern and strengthen a new one. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you're building new neural pathways, teaching your brain that success is safe, growth is possible, that you can handle what comes. It won't happen overnight. Real change never does. But it will happen, slowly, gradually, one brave choice at a time. You'll start to notice that the self-sabotage loosens its grip, that the fears quiet down, that you're able to stay in your success without immediately looking for the exit. And eventually, you'll look back and realize how far you've come. You'll see that you're not the same person who was too scared to try, too afraid to be seen, too convinced of your own limitations. You'll have proof, tangible proof, that you're capable of more than you thought. So let me leave you with this. Your self-sabotage has been running the show for long enough. It's been in the driver's seat, making decisions based on old fears and outdated beliefs, keeping you small to keep you safe. And maybe that worked for a while. Maybe you needed that protection when you were younger, when you were more vulnerable, when you didn't have the resources you have now. But you're not that person anymore. You're stronger than you think, more resilient than you know, more capable than you've allowed yourself to believe. And it's time to take the wheel back. It's time to make decisions based on who you want to become, not on who you used to be. It's time to move toward your goals instead of away from them. Even when it's scary, even when it's uncomfortable, even when every old pattern is screaming at you to retreat. Because the thing you're most afraid of, the thing you've been protecting yourself from, it's not actually failure. It's not actually judgment or responsibility or change. What you're most afraid of is finding out who you could become if you stopped standing in your own way. And that's the most terrifying thing of all. Because once you know what you're capable of, you can never pretend you don't. So stop pretending. Stop sabotaging. Stop protecting yourself from your own potential. The fears are there. They're real. but they don't get to make your decisions anymore. You do, and you're ready. Even if you don't feel ready, you're ready. Take the step, face the fear, do the thing, and trust that on the other side of that sabotage pattern is a version of you that's been waiting patiently for you to finally let them out. You've got this. Even when you don't think you do, even when you're scared, even when you want to sabotage, you've got this. Now go prove it to yourself.